Welcome to That's So Intimate,
a podcast where we explore living well through deep, curious conversations.
I'm Sarah, guide at Rad Intimacy, inviting you to remember your sacred self.
I'm Bryan, a guide at Sadhana Yoga School, where we share wisdom for life.
Let's get intimate. Hello, dear listeners. Bryan and I are back for a little hiatus to unpack the word commit or commitment. Interesting when we look at the origin of this word from Latin, com meaning together, and mitre is to send, to put, to release. So in essence, commit in its original sense meant to bring together, unite, to entrust, to join one's energy toward something or someone.
That makes sense. That resonates with the current definition, right?
I think so. Yeah. It's interesting that the prefix or the beginning of the word is together, because I guess you're always committing some energy toward another thing, whether it be like an idea, project, person, something, right? So like unpacking the current definitions, to pledge or bind oneself to a person, cause, or course of action, to devote time, energy, or self to something, and then to entrust, to place something precious into the care of another. And I think this is beautiful. In essence, commitment is devotion made visible.
Devotion made visible. I like that. Or thinking about bringing things together, like you're bringing your actions together with your value or your intention. Like you're acting in a way that is what's important to you, what you're committed to.
Yeah, and how do you decide that at various points in your life? I think we don't often intentionally think about, wake up and say, what am I committed to today? Some things just naturally happen. Like say you're a parent, you're committed to caring for your child, or you have a vocation, a job, and you're sort of committed to, maybe showing up on time or doing your best or whatever it is. But we don't really think of it in that way. Like I am, say it out loud or say it to ourselves. I am committed to my child or to being a good parent, or I am committed to this partner or to this idea or to this to this cause. I think a lot of people commit to causes or belief systems, values.
There's sometimes when we do say commitment, if people get married, if we're testifying in court, we commit to telling the truth.
I think probably in our Western modern culture, the thing, at least I'll speak for myself, but that comes to mind with the word commitment is about romantic relational. Like I feel like people being like, oh, he's one of those, he can't commit, like someone who doesn't want to sort of quote unquote settle down or, that kind of thing. But it's interesting to expand it beyond just the romantic relationship, which is, I think, maybe again, the first thing people might think of.
Yeah, it's interesting if we kind of want an explicit commitment in a relationship. Like in the parent-child relationship, I mean, I think a lot of parents don't really know what they're getting into.
No
right?
Kidding, right? Surprise.
Or if you're starting a business or starting any project, you don't necessarily know what you're really getting into. But you're committing to it it's not explicit. You're not stating, I commit to raising a child.
And
but you are committing to it.
Right. And what that really entails in terms of the amount of physical, mental, soul-led energy and, that you put into it in a lifetime. It's huge. And not just about parenting, but when you make a commitment to something, how much of yourself you give to it.
Mhm.
So I think about like being an entrepreneur or starting something new. I started a nonprofit a few years after my second child, and I kept like, silly referring to it as my third baby. It's like how much you spend a lot of time and energy on something speaks to, yeah, like your values, I guess, right? Like where you commit, intentionally or not, kind of says what matters to you. And when I think about the effort and the time that you put into something or someone, I have this interesting quote from William Feather. Success seems to be largely a matter of hanging on after others have let go. So it's almost like this like air of persistence.
Mhm.
Like the way to really commit to something is like stick to itiveness a bit.
It depends how we like in that quote, it depends how we define success.
Mm.
But in general, I think persistence is related to commitment. We have to stay attuned or keep our energy on that one thing.
Which is interesting to think like how many things can you really commit to fully at a time? Because we only have so much energy to put into these commitments of ours.
Or what would it mean to commit to something fully? Like, what would that look like? Because probably we don't really commit to things fully. We commit to them
Half-heartedly.
partially.
Yeah.
Like in a relationship, you commit a lot of energy to it, but not all of your energy. In
Yeah.
a work situation or business, you commit a lot of your energy, but if we commit all of our energy, then we don't have the rest of our life.
Mhm.
Parenting, we commit a lot of our energy, but not necessarily all of it. Or do we?
Well, so when I say commit fully, I don't know that that means occupying all your energy as much as like the deepest reverence for the person, idea, thing, and giving it your heart and your time, right? But I'm not sure if we can ever really commit to one thing fully with all of our energy because we're not, we're multifaceted. I don't think it's really possible to only commit to one thing fully as in all of ourselves.
But if we're thinking about it in a relationship, let's say we're spending an evening together, you can commit fully for the evening
Mm.
to someone or something. Like in the moment, maybe you can commit fully. You can commit fully to being present with your child. You can commit fully to being present at work in that moment.
Moment to moment, yeah.
But in your life or in the day or in the week, we need to share our time with different commitments.
Hmm.
Unless there's an overarching commitment that brings them all together.
And it makes me think like because we have not limitless energy, right? That there's only maybe at most a handful of things you can really commit to at any given time in your life, and how you decide what those are and how you say yes to those, like the full body yes, right? Like I'm
Mhm,
committed, versus being able to say no to things that distract you
mhm.
from those commitments. I think sometimes we have a hard time saying no, right, to the other things.
Yeah, thinking like if our actions are demonstration of what we're committed to, like how much time might we spend on a phone doing things that we think aren't that important, but in reality, we're committing that time towards that thing. Or committing time towards gossip, or we're committing time towards things that maybe upon deeper reflection, we wouldn't identify them as that important.
Hmm. I took this course on somatic social justice work. So, the sort of goal of this organization was to sort of solidify and ground those people in service and nonprofits, sort of like giving to causes so that they can sort of like give back to themselves, right? And feel centered in their being. And they use commitment in an interesting way and encourage folks to create like this commitment statement that has like the following framework. It's I am a commitment to fill in the blank. And this might be your cause or your person or whatever it is in your life right now. And then for the sake of fill in the blank, which is an interesting way to get really intentional about what and whom you're committed to and why. I think that's what's so cool about it is the why, and that it's like a living statement that it can change month to month or year to year. And so in real time, asking yourself, what are you a commitment to right now and why is really interesting about getting really clear about where you spend your time and what matters to you.
I'm thinking about a morning practice or any self-care practice that you have regularly. Like, I commit to this practice because it will allow me to be present for my family, or because it will allow me to be present at work, or because I want to be pain-free and have energy for life, or
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I think that why is a big thing. Like, because we wake up in the morning and we're like, I'm committed to this thing, but it doesn't feel that important. But
Yeah.
then if we remember the why, it's like, okay, that gives us an extra motivation.
And maybe more ability to have like persistence in those
Yeah.
tougher times, like to stick with it a little bit. So I'm thinking about synonyms right now. We've talked about a few already, but I just want to name them. And then one of the synonyms in particular, kind of dig into that. So dedication, devotion, loyalty, promise, allegiance, faithfulness, steadfastness, resolve. You get the point, on and on. But anyway, two of these in particular make me think about the original commitment being tied to a romantic relationship. And I think about loyalty and faithfulness. Because you and I had an interesting conversation spurred by a podcast that talked about the longevity of a romantic relationship that might be like, you're married or together with this person for decades and decades, and how in monogamy and in those, dyads, we're really focused on like, are they being loyal? Are they being committed? And if they, quote unquote, cheat or there's infidelity, does it negate all of the commitment that they've made in those other hours, days, years, decades of the life? Or can you see it as a whole picture in terms of like what commitments were made, even if errors were also made in that faithfulness, so to speak?
It's like, what's the most important thing in a relationship? And is there some commitment that if there's a transgression, that it nullifies everything? It's interesting to think like that, because you could spend years committed in so many ways to someone and
Mm.
sharing so many things. And then if there's one transgression, it's like, oh, that nullifies everything.
I'm thinking about like sobriety, right? And it's a commonly understood thing that sometimes people fall off the wagon, as they say, in their sobriety. But somehow, even if you're a part of AA and you get coins for the number of, months and years that you've been sober, you might start from your count from the beginning if you go back to using substances and then you become sober again. But it doesn't negate all the work that you did to become sober. So it's just interesting that, like, I don't know if this is a good like analogy for a romantic relationship, but I feel like we give each other grace in so many human things related to commitment and maybe success and failure on the road toward committing yourself to like a better life. But like in this narrow avenue of long term committed relationship, we've made it in our culture so black and white. Like you'll be cut off, we'll get divorced, I'll never forgive you because of maybe like one night or one, you know, I don't know. But we wouldn't do that for other things. So it's just an interesting lens on commitment or fidelity.
And we say it's one night, but my sense is mostly that's one night is just one of the symptoms of a longer period of non-commitment. It's like a
Mm,
slowly pulling away or
deteriorating
slow
of it,
deterioration.
right?
And then there's like the final straw
Hmm.
that might end it. Because if things are strong and good, and
Hmm.
then probably there wouldn't be that break of trust in the relationship.
Yeah, which kind of begs the like, how often are we talking about recommitment? And I don't mean like the recommitment ceremony things that people do. I mean, like, really, like, if you're in this multi-year long relationship every month, every year, like, talk about like what's working, what's not working, what would feel good for a commitment, like, what do we want to commit more of to each other? Like, I don't know, just being more open about how to keep the relationship healthy so you don't get in those places, right?
And then this is one of the sticky points of commitment for me, is because what if you commit to something, a project or a person or a self-care activity, but then a month later, a year later, you feel like your values or your priorities or something shifted and you don't feel like you want to commit to that anymore, but you've
Yeah.
committed to it. So then does commitment not have the same potency if we change our commitment,
Hmm.
if it's changeable?
Yeah.
Or is it like when we commit to something, it's like I'm committing to this now? Or is it I commit to this for a year or I commit to this for ever?
Yeah. It's an interesting question because it's making me think about dharma or kind of our soul purpose and kind of what we're here to do. And I think sometimes our commitments can get really narrow and sometimes that can be helpful, like get real specific. But sometimes it's actually, so say, let's see if I can use an example. Say you're like, I'm really committed to serving children with autism. And then that shifts because then the commitment changes to adults with autism or like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, but maybe your dharma is to help people on this, on like the neurodiverse spectrum or like, I don't know, like, I guess what I'm saying is like, sometimes it's just altering a thing that you know feels right ish. And you're like, oh, yeah, kind of like that, but maybe shift it a little bit this way. Or, like you said, maybe it's just that your internal compass has shifted. You've learned something new about yourself. You've lost someone important to you. Your priorities change. Like, just something changes. And it's like totally not the thing that you were into before that you're into now.
Well, if you have a child, right? Lots of things change in your commitments,
Yeah.
right? Maybe you're committed more to friends before, but then you have a child. Now you're committed more to your child. Just like changes, like as life changes. So then how do we deal with the loss of commitment or the change of commitment?
Mm. Well, remember how I was saying that this like nonprofit I was starting, I called my third baby jokingly, but when you really do commit a lot of your time and energy to something, I think it's important to kind of sit with the loss of it if it
Mm.
changes, almost like mourn it. a little bit if it's that important to you. And if you've committed to it, it probably is. And you're mentioning parenting and children, like the turning point of them, say, like graduating from high school and going out into the world. It's both celebratory and probably a grieving process for the parents, right?
Mhm.
Because it's shifting how things were. You're still committed to being a parent. It just looks way different, maybe,
Mhm.
given that they might not, like, say, live in your house, or, you might not be like making them lunches like you like. It's just different. So, like, marking those with some sort of ceremony, ritual, or just naming it or feeling the feelings associated with it, I think is important. So I have this line here: commitment isn't static, it is an ongoing dance of presence. It is not a cage, but a container, a vessel through which love, purpose, and growth can deepen. So it's interesting to think of commitment as maybe a bit more fluid in that way.
Mm.
And I think of like commitment in a spiritual sense too, right? Like devotion or trust in the universe, like how sometimes that commitment me and that trust in something bigger means a little bit of a letting go, of like a doing less and allowing that like feminine energy of just like letting it flow. Yeah, how commitment can, I think, on the surface feel a bit like a masculine energy thing, but it can be both for sure.
Yeah, it seems like the knowing of what to commit to, maybe feminine energy, but then the committing and the follow through, maybe masculine energy. So then if we're thinking about balancing both in a commitment, sometimes it seems like maybe in relationships we get too tied into the following through of and not allowing enough to a flow of commitment. Because then it can feel like we're tied in.
Mm.
We're bound by that commitment and we have to keep acting as if we're committed.
Yeah.
But the reality is probably we do change and evolve as people. So then our commitments would naturally follow.
Hmm. And in partnership, I think about like, I love the definition of love as being both held and free. So it's like having that kind of looser commitment, like I was just mentioning, that it's not a cage, but like this like vessel, and that it can maybe ebb, flow, and move while each person is changing. I also just recently heard someone say, in every relationship, no matter whether it's a friend or romantic or anything else, is that the commitment is to grow together. I like that because I think I sort of resisted that word commitment as like an energy of feeling trapped. Like you're
Mm,
pinned down rather than that you're held and free, or rather than that you grow together, is like a really like beautiful reframing
hmm.
of what commitment could be.
Yeah, I like that idea of keeping it open and free. But I'm also seeing the value in being tied to one thing and having that focus because we do have a limited time and energy. So if we have clarity on what we're spending that on, it can help us to
Yeah.
not be distracted by things that aren't as important to us.
Yeah, and I don't think when I say free, I mean like chaotic free. It's like we were talking about the elements this morning. So it's like holding in harmony the earth element, the grounding with the air element or the water of like the flow, the movement, that both can be true. So that the grounding, the earth is the like, what actually does the commitment look like? And then the opposite energy is allowing that to maybe shift and grow with us, or with my ever changing values, beliefs, needs, whatever,
Hmm.
like both and.
Yeah. Thinking about the multitude of commitments that we have, one thing I like to do is look at called the wheel of focus and like can map out the areas of importance in our life, things that are important. So one of the things often is family. One of the things is maybe friends. One of the things is our personal health. One of the things is maybe our job and our career. One of the things is like our personal finances. One thing is fun or spiritual growth. It's going to have the different areas of our life that
Mm.
when we have them all fairly intact and healthy and moving, our life feels like it's moving in the direction that we want to go, and it feels pretty good. But if one of those is down, like if our health is down, it slows everything down, right? So it's like thinking about committing to all these areas of our life. And then just like if we have if we have finances, if we have a job that we like, if we have family that we interact with, if we have a friend network, maybe an intimate partner,
Mhm.
and we tend to them, we commit to tending them and taking care of them, then we have, I don't know, everything that we need.
Mhm. Yeah, and just that there are different seasons when that balance might get a little off kilter, meaning like when you're talking about health, I was thinking how when my mom got really sick with cancer, it happened to be this period of my life where I also had really young kids and they needed my care. But I ended up shifting a lot of my energy and time on being with and taking care of my mom. And that felt like a meaningful commitment at that time. That was for a phase, it was
Mm-hmm.
about for a year of my life. And I think that's why like values really come into play a lot because I could have just said whatever balance of commitments I had at the time when I found out she had cancer, I could have just said, well, that's my balance. That's what I feel good with. This is what I'm already committed to. But often what happens is something externally comes into our life and shifts that. And if it's aligned with our values, then it feels good to change or alter our commitment level in some area.
Mm-hmm.
And it throws it off balance. Like, you know, my immediate family and my kids saw me less. Like it just, it wasn't easy, but it's possible to do. I guess the hard part is if for some reason it doesn't align with your values, yet you get really shifted. I don't know what that would look like. Someone steals your identity and, your credit tanks and like, I don't know, you have to like really shift your focus towards something that feels not great, but it has to be resolved. Energy has to go there. You have to commit to like rebuilding that or fixing that problem. It's like, I wonder if you can still have the same foundational commitments, even when the winds of life come through and create these bigger shifts in where you spend your time and where you sort of maybe are being forced to commit
Mm-hmm.
to certain things. Maybe it's more grounding to keep referring back to your values and go, oh, but I'm still aligned here.
For me, I think I tend to get swept away by distractions or whatever's in front of me, what I'm working on. And it helps me to think back to the basic areas that I want to commit to in my life.
Hmm.
So always making sure that I'm doing some things to stay healthy, like sleeping and getting some exercise and eating well. So even if I'm maybe super distracted by something else, I still kind of want to keep those things in check. Otherwise, if I don't focus on those, I lose my health and I get sick.
Mm-hmm.
Or with friendships, or just kind of like socializing, like I can get distracted by other things and not want to interact with other people or go out. But I find that if I do that for a month or two, it's like, oh, something's missing, something's not feeling quite right. I have to actively stay committed to that aspect. Certainly in relationship with someone, we can't go too long without tending to that.
Mm. You're making me think, though, at the center of a lot of these commitments has to be a commitment to yourself, too.
Hmm.
Because if you don't commit certain things to yourself, like just talking about self care and sleep and things, you won't be much of a commitment to other things in your life, right? It's going to be hard to give energy and time when you're not coming from this sort of like grounded
Hmm.
place within.
And it can work in tandem to another commitment that we have, right? It's like we can use that. I commit to taking care of myself so that I
Exactly.
can show up for my family.
Yeah, back to that commitment statement, right? It could be really simple. You could just say, I have a commitment to 8 hours of sleep every night so that I can show up clear headed, present, and loving for the
Mm.
people I care about, or,
Yeah.
whatever that
Yeah.
looks like. Yeah.
So then, in that regard, a commitment to a relationship or a child or a job comes with it other commitments to keep yourself in optimal position or ability to follow through with that commitment.
Hmm.
It's like I can't commit to something and then not get sleep the night before because I can't show up fully.
Yeah. I'm wondering what holds people back from commitment. So, looking at some antonyms like indifference, hesitation, avoidance, inconsistency, apathy, withdrawal.
One thing for me is fear of failure.
Hmm.
If I commit to something and then it doesn't work, that doesn't feel good.
Yeah, for sure. I think I used to have, and I guess I do still have a little bit of thread of this, maybe from family of origin stuff, but this feeling pinned down and not like that might hurt me somehow, right? That like if I'm stuck in a commitment, and maybe that's an old way of looking at it rather than it being more changeable. But if I commit to something, I'm like pinned down, associated with it in this way that like I'm just like imagining physically being pinned down, right? Like you're stuck here to this person, place, thing, idea, and then it prevents you from moving or growing or changing. And I think for me, that was the biggest fear of committing to something is what if I guess it's from fear, a little bit of like less fear of failure, more fear of not being able to move or change or grow.
As if you wanted to change your choice at a different time,
Yeah, but it was
but you're
like this
locked in.
belief, right? It was like this, like almost like somatic, embodied feeling that I was almost being choked or caged or held down. You know what I mean? Like this, like that makes sense.
Yeah, I've observed a lot of people, and we often think that the decision we're making now is for the rest of our life, right? So it's
Right.
like, oh, I'm changing a career, and that's for the rest of my life, so it better be the right one. Whereas in reality, if you change it and try it out for a year or 2 or 3, and then it's not quite what you thought, you could change it again. Or where you're living, right? It's like you could move to a new place, not being 100% sure it's the place, try it out, and if it doesn't work out,
Mm.
try a new one, right? So I think maybe, like, sometimes we make a commitment and we think it's forever, when in reality it's not, and the belief that it's forever can inhibit us from making it.
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm wondering if, like, you can largely move through the world like this for most of your life. Can you be indifferent or hesitate or avoid a lot of commitments and just kind of, I don't know, is that the air energy? You're just kind of floating and not feeling grounded in something?
Well, if I think about the path, our narrative of success in our world today is go to school, get a good job, get a family, get a house. And unless we're really personally choosing those things and saying, like, this is really what I want, kind of like just going through the motions and not
Mm.
committing, right? It's like,
I guess this is what I'm supposed to be
yeah,
doing
this
now
is,
because I'm this many years old or,
yeah,
you know?
I need to go to a good college, or now I need to get this type of job, rather than this is really what I want and I'm going to commit to doing this. I mean, you could end up going that path, but I think a
Mhm.
lot of people, we kind of just like funneled in there and we're not necessarily committed to something. So we kind of fall into the default
Yeah.
path.
And so, like, committing to what lights you up would be a huge thing, right?
Hmm.
Or getting curious about why you don't wanna commit to something or someone, like, without judging it, just get curious, like, "Why am I avoiding this decision? Why am I hesitating in this relationship?" Or, like, you know? Because I think what you said is probably true that it's often based in some sort of fear.
Yeah, if we choose, maybe we're in a career that is stable and provides us with income, but we're not really that passionate about it. We're not feeling like we want to stay committed to it. We want to do something else. It's more important to us.
Mm,
But then there's a lot of fear of what we are giving up.
mhm. We were just talking about decision making the other day and how to tell the difference between fear and intuition. So, how to kind of know, what would I do if I wasn't afraid is an
Mm.
interesting question because that might be more intuition. And I think maybe that might get you closer to like what you're willing and able to commit to.
Yeah, I like that idea. Fear is a common barrier to making commitments, imagining that fear wasn't there.
Easier said than done, but it
Yeah,
is an interesting
but
exercise, right?
imagining, and it doesn't do any harm to voice or to journal or to share with a friend and see how that feels. And then I'm also thinking, if we scale our commitments, right? So it's like, maybe I'm not ready to commit to starting an entire new business and
Mm,
investing all of my money into it and time for the next 5 years. But maybe I am ready to commit to doing some research for 2 hours each night this week
mhm,
and see how I feel after that. I can take some commitment, and I'm going to put some time and energy into this.
yeah. And if
It-
that feels good,
And then
then
it,
you shadow somebody and like
yeah,
whatever feel like I don't know. Yeah, you can
yeah, make smaller
baby commitments.
commitments.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then same with the relationships, right?
Hmm.
Maybe we're not ready for a life commitment, but what are we ready for? What commitment can we make? So then in relationship, I think that commitment often is a form of communication for each other, right? Like a lot of our commitments are just for ourselves, and we don't necessarily need to share them with others because it's an internal thing of things we're doing.
Hmm.
But in a relationship, it can be helpful to know, because it's a communal thing of
Mm.
to communicate what is our commitment.
Yeah, I love thinking about relationships between two people as being like three elements. So it's the two people and then the relationship itself. So if you felt comfortable sharing what your personal commitments are individually, and then trying to get on the same page about what your relational commitments are to each other to like maintain or grow the relationship between you. It's interesting. Are you longing for any deeper commitment in any areas of your life, like right now?
I guess what comes up is I've been all thinking about my career or my work and figuring out direction on that, and yeah, how much commitment I want to make towards a change or towards a new direction. And I guess thinking about it in steps, okay, I'm going to try this for a little while
Mm.
and commit to it is helpful. I'm feeling like I should commit a little bit more to my self-care and get my morning practice going a bit stronger. Feeling a little weaker and tighter in my body than I like.
Hmm.
Feel like I'd like to commit to making some deeper friendships with more people. What about you?
I think I also want to commit to like a morning practice. I weave in and out of having commitments to that, and I do show up better and feel better in my body when I do it regularly. So, yeah, meditating and journaling and moving and sort of sitting in front of my altar, and that feels really nice before the household wakes up and it's just quiet and still. And then I've been thinking about a commitment to my finances and my future, and I guess an extension of that is to my kids. So I've been thinking about creating a trust. So just getting kind of like family planning organization with finances and just kind of getting it all lined up would feel good. So I'm starting that process, but following through on it. Yeah.
So what do we do when we feel like we've made a commitment? Maybe it's to somebody else. Maybe it's a partner. Maybe it's something at work. Maybe it's a commitment to ourselves. And we break that commitment. How do we deal with that feeling?
Mm.
And I'm wondering why we have that feeling. Or what do you
What's the
feel?
feeling?
It's this feeling of, it's like a feeling of failure or letting somebody down.
So are you like disappointed in yourself or something?
Yeah.
Hmm.
How do you feel when you break a commitment? It could be little ones or big ones,
Yeah.
right? Like this weekend plans changed, so some of the commitments had to shift. I
I
guess,
think I used to be really self-critical. Now, a lot more grace for myself. I think it's going to happen in your life. So getting somewhat comfortable with it is part of the process, I think. And then if it's letting someone else down that you care about, I think, that might look like a rupture. So then focusing on how to repair that trust
mm,
would be important. I guess you could do that work with yourself too. Like if you broke your own trust in a way,
mm,
right? Like how do you tell yourself that you're a trustworthy person, and how do you show up for yourself? And I think just the grace comes from, I would say, especially as parents, it's really challenging to hold many commitments. And some commitments take priority, you know, at different points in your life. So others might fall away
mhm.
or get neglected more. So I guess I think it's natural. And I guess I think like if you can intentionally, wholeheartedly commit to like 3 things, that's probably all you can really handle, really. And I don't mean that like say you choose yourself, your children, and your job. That doesn't mean that you can't also focus on spending time with your friends or on caring for your dog or your house or whatever else is important. But that there's only so much space and time to make deep commitments to just a few things, I think, really. Or maybe making commitments to concepts is easier. Like, can you make a commitment to care? And that can include self care, care of others, care of the environment. Like, I mean, maybe we need to broaden. I don't know if that makes them less potent, but
Certainly allows for more fluidity in action.
mhm. The other day we were talking about ahimsa, right? Like nonviolence or intentional compassion, right? Like maybe you just commit to that, and then like how that looks from month to month, time to time will definitely shift, but it feels easier to commit to concepts that way and try to live from that space. Here's an interesting mantra similar to that is I commit not to certainty, but to presence. Because specificity and certainty about certain commitments can leave you feeling like you're missing the mark if you don't get there. But presence might be sometimes you're missing the mark on presence too, but it's like, I don't know, a little more built in grace to it, I think.
Yes, if we have a kind of a spectrum of commitment, one is very specific, certain action to get a kind of a certain result. And that can have its own advantages because maybe it gets things done, it's reliable, it's going to happen. But the disadvantage is the rupture that it can create when it doesn't happen.
Hmm.
On the other end of the spectrum is like this open-ended value commitment, not specific actions, not specific results, but a overarching commitment to move in a direction.
Mm-hmm.
And that can maybe feel more fluid and maybe more comfortable because if we fail, we can reframe it as learning. I'm just learning how to move in that direction better.
Hmm.
So we don't have that potent hit, but perhaps it doesn't allow for the same clarity of communication or direction on which way to go, on what action to take.
Mm-hmm.
So then maybe we oscillate in, back and forth, right? We get clarity on what specific actions we're committing to. We take those, and then maybe that's working for a while, but then maybe it's not quite getting the results we want. So we swing back to focusing more on the value commitment, and then can kind of settle and ground in there and refocus, and we're kind of shifting within our commitment direction from real action oriented commitment to values oriented commitment.
Which makes me think that at the core of this could be spiritual commitments, whatever that looks like for the individual. And it's coming to mind the concept of bhakti, like, right, devotional yoga. And so I'm curious what that means to you and how you might consider bhakti and commitment.
Regarding commitment and bhakti yoga, I would think the commitment is to always remember your spiritual self, however that is, right? I think of spirituality as how you fit into the world, right? Like how you fit into the universe. So we all have different beliefs around that, but the specific beliefs aren't important to the idea that we're just staying committed to remembering that.
Hmm.
So we have maybe a picture to remind us what's important in our life. Maybe that's a family member. Maybe it's a certain God representation that you want to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's nature that you want to remember. So we're just constantly reminding ourselves of that and keeping the big picture of who am I and how do I fit into the universe? How do I fit in the world? What is the point of life?
Hmm.
So we might come together and sing together with that intention of just reminding ourselves of how we fit in.
That like commitment to the divine, whatever that looks like, that commitment to love or, uniting souls or something like that makes me think like that might be like the enlightened commitment, right? Hmm. And what about commitment to truth? That's interesting. There's this life coach that I follow, and she talks often about this year of her life where she committed to kind of radical honesty, which is interesting. Like, I mean, it's just your truth, I guess, right? Because everybody's truth might be different, but it's an interesting way to move about the world is to speak honestly. You don't really think about like commitment in speech, or I don't think about that very often.
Yeah, often in our social world these days, there's not as much commitment to honesty as there is to politeness
Mm,
or respect or care of others
hmm
or the project we're working on or other commitments. So honesty often is not a top commitment that we value. So I think it's great. Most people would probably benefit, I think, from experimenting with committing to honesty a bit more. Thinking about a relationship with anyone, a friend, a family member, a partner. If you increase your honesty, you're going to increase your connection.
yeah. And I don't think this like truth telling is about harming people, right? It's not about being cruel. It can be compassionate truth telling, right? Like, how does it feel for you, like in your body when you're living out your commitments?
When I think about a day, at the end of the day, I feel like I had clarity in my purpose, or I guess my commitments, and I just did those. It's so satisfying and fulfilling. Like, this is what I committed to today, and I did it. Then what else is there to do?
Yeah, you can be at peace
At
with
peace,
life
yeah.
a little bit. Yeah.
Whereas when perhaps I don't have that clarity of direction, it's a bit more nebulous in my actions or decisions. I often will have this nagging feeling of, oh, I should be doing something different than what I'm doing right now.
Hmm
There's an uneasiness of not having that be working towards a commitment. So then sometimes I'll reframe things in my mind. Like, well, let's say I am having a feeling tired and low energy day. So then it's not really possible to follow through on a commitment, maybe for work or maybe even seeing a friend. So like some of those commitments are down, but I can reframe it in my mind. I'm just committing to self care. I'm committing to getting rest. This is the best thing I can do for myself.
Yeah.
So I reframe what it is I'm doing and how that fits into one of my commitments that I have.
When you reflect on those like evenings as you're heading toward sleep, where you do feel really like contented in your commitments, is there something that like rings true? It's like, oh, because I checked these 3 boxes, I feel really satisfied. Or
I think it is kind of like that. And some days it might be like a work related commitment that I was really focusing on that feels very satisfying. Some days it might be a family commitment, spend
Mhm.
the day doing things with my family that can feel really fulfilling and satisfying. Maybe it's with you, spending time with you that can be really fulfilling and satisfying. Maybe it's self care. Maybe I got a lot of exercise and went for a hike and took care of myself in that way. That feels really fulfilling and satisfying.
Mm.
It is kind of like, yeah, checked off that box.
So as we're wrapping up, I'm curious if whether you want to phrase it like that one commitment statement or something else, like in this next day, week, month, do you feel like that you can say, I am a commitment to something for the sake of something? Or however you want to phrase it.
I feel like it should be something big.
Ooh, a big reveal. Let's hear
Not a
it.
big reveal, but a big commitment. But I mean, little ones are easier or
Yeah.
normal ones are easier, but thinking about a new thing to commit to, I guess it's a little tricky because I feel like if I'm committing to it, then if I don't follow through,
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of like I want to be ready.
Well, it doesn't have to be a new commitment. It can be an existing
Yeah.
one that you've just put to words, that you've said out loud.
Hmm.
But if you feel cornered, you don't have to commit to anything at all right now. I was just asking.
I know. No, I'm just trying to think.
Don't commit if you're not ready.
I guess one thing, yeah, switching up my career focus, starting doing handyman business. I feel committed to that. these next couple months to, yeah, put effort in that, explore how that feels, and then to do the best that I can on the projects that I do work on.
Mm, beautiful.
What about you?
I mean, we had talked about, self-care practices. I think I'm a commitment to self-care practices for the sake of harmony.
Mm,
So that sounds really vague, but sort of on purpose because I want to be able to sit in bed at night and think more often than not that I was able to kind of check that box. So whatever it looks like in a 24-hour period, I was able to take care of myself so I can show up calm, grounded, loving, and create harmony wherever I am. Mm-hmm. Thanks for tuning in to That's So Intimate. If this episode sparked something for you, hit subscribe and share it with someone you care about. We're growing this beautiful community, one conversation at a time.
Got a word or topic you want us to explore? Send us an email or find us on Instagram. We love hearing from you. We'll be back next week with more connection, curiosity, and intimate conversation.